The piano mic's on? Souls Unitarian Universalist Church, building community, inspiring growth, creating change. Here in the heart of Kansas City, we come together to create this hour of shared reflection so that we might be renewed in courage for these times and inspired to lives of greater dignity, higher purpose, deeper generosity, and more effective action. If you are new to Unitarian Universalism or to our congregation, we want to get to know you and share part of your journey. If this place is already your spiritual home, welcome once more. We need one another, and it is good to be together again. Because we care for one another's safety, our congregation is gathering online during this long season of coronavirus pandemic. Nevertheless, through the gifts of technology, we continue to celebrate community and connections as we lean into the values of justice, compassion, and reason. Together, we learn the love that has the power to overcome both loneliness in the heart and oppression in the world. Welcome to our service this morning. May the words and music and images that we offer today nourish our best selves, calling forth abundant wisdom and love. Arise, our souls, arise. Good morning, and once again, welcome to this online gathering of the All Souls Unitarian Universalist Church of Kansas City on January 23rd, 2022. Let us greet each other with these words adapted from a classic opening by the humanist poet Kenneth Patton, in which he celebrates the joy of gathering for worship. We arrive in our many singular rooms, not walking over the branching streets as we used to do, but logging on to an invisible web of cyber connection. Still, we come to be assured that our friends in faith surround us to restore their images upon our mind's eye. We enlarge our voices privately in common speaking and singing. For these moments, we know our solitude as that found in the midst of those who with us seek their hidden reckonings. Our minds hold the remembered faces. Their voices do not stir the surrounding air, but their words and their presence are with us nonetheless. It is not the warmth of their hands that assures us, but the gladness of our recognized names remains. This is still and always the reason of cities, of homes, of assemblies in the houses and virtual spaces of fellowship. It is good to be with one another. This morning, many of us are feeling a shared sadness at the death of the renowned Buddhist monk, peace activist, and spiritual teacher Thich Nhat Hanh. His gentle presence and model of socially engaged awareness practice had a global influence and shaped late 20th century perception of Buddhism. His deceptively simple teaching was like this: when you practice meditation or walking meditation, don't make any effort. Allow yourself to be like a pebble at rest. The pebble is resting on the bottom of the river And the pebble does not have to do anything. While you are walking, you are resting. While you are sitting, you are resting. Breathing in, repeat, in the here, in the here. Breathing out, in the now, in the now. Although these are different words, they mean exactly the same thing. I have arrived in the here. I have arrived in the now. I am at home in the here. I am at home in the now. There is no way to happiness. Happiness is the way. There is no way to peace. Peace is the way. This beloved teacher's flame has gone out, but its light remains in many minds and hearts and continues to illuminate our world. In a few moments, we will have an opportunity for our practice of sharing the journey by telling of the joys and concerns that we carry. You can click on the chat button at the bottom of your screen and type a sorrow or joy that you want to share in community. Later in the service, we will read them aloud. For now, we signify this time of special attention and reflection by kindling this chalice flame, symbol of our faith, heritage, and covenant. May its light reflect gratitude for the blessings of our lives and compassion for all who suffer, as we rededicate ourselves to the search for truth and wisdom, the guidance of reason and justice, and the practice of kindness and peace. If you wish, please let us know in the chat where your chalice is lighted this morning.
The expanding darkness, she said, became nearly unbearable. Making sure, finally the days got so short that she would watch the clock carefully, making sure that she stood at her kitchen window to see the sun both rise and set in one brief viewing from that spot. I picture her waiting at that window each day for one fleeting but sure glimpse of the sun that she could carry with her through the next 23 hours of darkness. I've never lived in Alaska, but I can't help but think of the times in my life when I have felt hope shrink from my days as steadily as the sun disappears in winter. How important the smallest sliver of light or hope can be in times like that. How I will stand at any window I can find that offers even the briefest view, sometimes barely visible if I rise up on tiptoe to catch a glimpse on the horizon. I imagine, although I've never asked my friend, that other places and homes in Alaska might have had a slightly better or longer view of the sunlight on those winter days. And I imagine, too, what relief my friend might have felt had someone invited her to share their view.
Friends do things like this, the Sufi poet Hafiz once said in a poem by that title. Friends, he said, tell which mat their house key is hidden under, for you would not believe the extraordinary view of God from my bedroom window. During the many times I have lost sight of hope from my window, I have felt grateful thanks when friends have invited me to view it from theirs. And in times when I lose sight of God, I am thankful to others who leave keys under their doormats so that I might borrow the view from their windows while mine is blocked. As the seasons come and go, as darkness lengthens before giving way to light again, as the tides of hope and hopelessness shift from high to low to high again, perhaps we can share with one another the many views from our many windows, the many names we use to call out to whatever God we know, the many ways we hear God answer. This is how we make it through the longest nights. This is how we open a wider window to hope. This is how we break the isolation that keeps us standing in the dark, all alone.
Open the window, children, open the window now. Open the window, children, open the window. The only border close you is the border round your mind. Open the window, let the dove fly in. Open the window, children, open the window now. Open the window, children, open the window, let the dove fly in. Open the window, let the dove fly in. Some people have money, some people have none. Open the window, let the dove fly in. What's the use of money if your heart's gone numb? Open the window, let the dove fly in. Open the window, children, open the window now. Open the window, children, open the window, let the dove fly in. Open the window, let the dove fly in. This big old world is in a great big mess. Open the window, let the dove fly in. Open the window, find peace and rest. Open the window, let the dove fly in. Open the window, let the dove fly in. Open the window, let the dove fly in.
In his recent book, Recapture the Rapture, Rethinking God, Sex, and Death in a World That's Lost Its Mind, contemporary cultural anthropologist Jamie Wheel suggests that there are two versions of what he calls rapture ideology. The first is the familiar sort of scriptural fundamentalism, which claims, he says, that the world as we know it is sinfully broken and unsavable, that there is a point in the near future when everything is going to be changed in a way that humans have no control over, that on the other side of that inflection point, everyone we value will be saved and redeemed. So let's get there as fast as possible, without much concern for the world we are leaving behind. This may look like Christians awaiting the Battle of Armageddon and the return of Jesus, or Muslims anticipating the establishment of a worldwide caliphate. There are many historical examples. The second form of rapture ideology is more modern and secular. It proclaims that the world as we know it is doomed, not because of sin, but by overconsumption. That geopolitical ecosystem collapse will soon create a catastrophic inflection point that will not be controlled by human intention. That on the other side of that event, our people need to be prepared in order to survive. So let's prepare as fast as possible, and never mind collateral damage to others or the planet. This may look like doomsday preppers buying up old missile silos and filling them with food and ammunition, or like billionaires attempting to colonize Mars or upload their consciousness to computers. While it may sound silly or improbable to a lot of us, there are many folks utterly serious about these projects. Wheel observes that what these two versions have in common is a studied disregard for the folks who will be, as the popular novel series puts it, left behind. In the first scenario, those who survive will be saved by the correctness of their faith, and in the second, by the accurate foresight of their provision for the crisis. Anyone who does not believe or prepare properly will perish. And for those who hold these views, that is okay. As a Universalist, it seems to me that such opinions and practices are against my religion for two reasons. First, because I do not believe that there is any special group of human beings who deserve survival more than all the others. There's a lot of randomness in the material world where lucky and unlucky accidents happen, but everyone is equally subject to the roulette wheel of fortune. And the idea that some are more worthy to be saved is always dangerous to justice and the common good. Second, I believe that all human life arises from the same source and moves toward the same destiny. Death will have us all in the end, and whatever might come thereafter comes to us all as well. Working to build a world that offers comfort, opportunity, and affirmation only for some, while others suffer, seems to me to fly in the face of what any divinity worthy of our worship could command. Wheel goes on to propose that we who are not eager to see the world as we know it destroyed so that we can build it more nearly in our own image have work to do. He describes practices of what he calls hedonic engineering that help human beings connect to deeper awareness, happiness, and the state of flow. These include both traditional spiritual techniques like meditation, movement, and music, as well as intentional sexuality and psychoactive drug use. Seeking to separate religious practices from dogma and sex and drugs from their addictive, exploitive abuses, he advocates for making the experience of the deep now widely accessible without mystical decoration. Healing, connection, and happiness, he seems to say, are the personal antidotes to rapture ideology. In the final section of his book, Weil suggests that we should also be about the work of ethical cult building. That is to say, the creation of decentralized, non-oppressive communities in which people are bonded by experiences of connection and flow and a commitment to the social good. Well, duh, here we are. There are a number of hedonic engineering techniques that depend upon the nature of the human limbic system as an open loop. When human beings are born, we are largely unable to regulate our own bodily systems. We are not too good at maintaining a constant temperature. Our digestive capacity is chaotic. Others have to help us burp. We can even, in the worst case scenario, just forget to breathe. By holding us close to their own better regulated bodies, our parents and caregivers coach our hearts to beat and our lungs to breathe, our muscles to tense and relax, our hormones to be released, and dozens of other functions that keep us alive and growing. And the thing is, we never entirely outgrow this need to sync with the other organic systems around us. Siblings, partners, housemates, our own children, coworkers, pets, friends. Our limbic systems are always happy to link up with others and reward us for giving them the opportunity to do that with a dose of happiness chemicals to our brains. This is one of the most basic of what Ken Patton tells us is the reason of cities, of homes, of assemblies in the houses of worship. It is the impulse, one might even say the need, that has been most deeply frustrated as these long months into years of pandemic risk have unfolded. We truly do need one another, and the saving of the world as we know it needs for that need to be satisfied. Which is why our somewhat random and variously successful collective efforts as churches to maintain and nurture our community connections during this time is about more than just preserving the institution's financial viability, or even keeping us individually appeased as we wait for the public emergency to be over. It is also why, even in the most ordinary of times, our ritual sharing of personal joys and concerns is not just an act of informing our friends of the latest news, or a convenient way of marking the milestones of our private lives. It is these things, of course, and those are legitimate purposes. But more than this, it is a way of testifying our commitment to each other in our shared humanity and affirming that we are all in this business of life together. No one is so insignificant that their rejoicings and sorrows should pass unnoticed. No one is so grand that they have no need for others to honor their victories and support them in their defeats. When we use this opportunity to weave the strands of community, we strengthen the interdependent web as it exists now in this world, not waiting for another better time to connect with some other better people. By this practice, we learn the humility that teaches us not to dominate our companions by demanding excessive attention, as well as the confidence to share our burdens out loud so that the compassion of friends can help us bear them. We remind each other that the practice of naming our feelings is as needful as the telling of our thoughts if we are to be whole people in authentic fellowship. By connecting to each other in this way, we embrace this world as we know it as a place of sharing, healing, redemption from suffering, and joy that does not need to be destroyed and remade so that the unworthy should perish. Rather, we affirm in the spirit of our first principle the worth of all people and the dignity of their ordinary triumphs and tragedies in this life. Too often, religion, as it has existed in much of recorded history, has done more to exacerbate human suffering than to relieve it. But it has also been true that religion in various forms has also been the developing ground for many of the hedonic engineering strategies that Weil identifies. Meditation and breathing techniques across most faith traditions, ecstatic dancing from the Sufis to the Shakers, music and chanting from Buddhist sutras to Taizé, even sexuality in the tantric traditions and hallucinogens such as peyote have served the spiritual search for ultimacy, enlightenment, and meaning. So too, the techniques of limbic connection have been used in religion. Intentional communities of learning and practice over time, as well as crowds of inspired worshipers at festival events. Unitarian Universalism in contemporary America has inherited a certain Puritan intellectual tendency and a skepticism of ecstatic experience. However, we do value the advice of science, and we do cherish the human connections of community. These are some of our spiritual practices, and that includes sharing the significant moments of our lives, which helps us each to know that we are not experiencing these things alone. What many traditional religious communities have learned about hedonic engineering by trial and error and accidental discovery, we now understand through the science of brain chemistry. We know that there are 4 triggers to brain functions that we experience as happiness. As a reminder, they are endorphins, which reduce pain and worry, dopamine, which rewards accomplishment, serotonin, which regulates mood and confidence and reacts to natural light, like the experience of the woman in Alaska, and oxytocin, which responds to physical touch and limbic connection. Much that we normally do in gatherings of religious community helps to release and elevate these chemicals in our brain, making us feel good about ourselves and each other, and experiencing church as a positive place to be. Expressing gratitude and generosity raises levels of dopamine. Laughter, dance, and certain kinds of smells increase endorphins. Meditation, conscious breathing, and happy memories trigger serotonin. And group singing, touch, and intentional acts of kindness create a surge of oxytocin. These effects are quite independent of what theology is being advocated. The dopamine that someone gets from contributing to Joel Osteen's new private jet is not much different from the same feeling when you donate to Doctors Without Borders. What the song actually says is not as important to your oxytocin levels as the act of singing it together with others. And this is where the critical mind becomes indispensable, as I see it, because I believe that we are each responsible for where we seek those chemical brain rewards. We aren't going to be in a position to analyze it in the moment, so we need to decide ahead of time what kind of community we want to affirm and what groups we trust with our happiness chemicals. I believe that Jamie Weil is correct when he says that if we want to save this world from those who would just as soon wipe it out and start over, we must be intentional about cultivating both our own personal happiness and those ethical cult communities where people can come in freedom to practice being human together. I think that this is what we are here, what we have always wanted and tried to be. It is what we have to offer even now in this pandemic season, in this world that has lost its mind. And when we do that little ceremony of placing flowers in a vase and speaking out loud to our church community, the sadness that has been weighing so heavily on our souls, or the happiness that has been dancing so brightly in our hearts, we are doing something so much more, something deeper and more significant than we perhaps realize. The thing is, the journey we share is not just this hour on Sunday morning, whether it is in person or online. The journey we share is the whole thing. This world, this life, this being human in the midst of a cosmos of stars and a history whose narrative we are writing all together at every moment. I say that it is precious, this journey that we share. I bear witness that it is to be cherished in all its tragedy and frustration and ridiculousness, in all its arbitrary joy and pain and happenstance love. I testify that even though death will have me in the end, and you and all of us, it is, as the Creator once declared, supposedly, good. And I will, as long as I have a voice in the matter, not consent to or rejoice in the hope of its destruction. And therefore, I announce that our commitment to human fellowship means that we in this community are called upon to be glad with those who rejoice and to weep with those who mourn. And so, we set aside this time in our gathering to share with one another the joys and concerns which are now shaping our lives. May the beauty and sweetness of these brief flowers remind us all to hold one another in the bonds of sympathy, encouragement, and care. If you have a joy or concern to share that you have not yet entered into the chat function, please do that now so that Angie can share it with us all.
Joy, Melanie Yackel. I am now 1 year cancer-free. A concern of sorrow at the passing of global spiritual leaders like Desmond Tutu and Thich Nhat Hanh, who offered wisdom and hope to the world. Joy, Mark Gibbons. So many people have pitched in to keep the hunger outreach team active while he has been recovering from shoulder surgery. Another joy is that his surgery was successful, and a concern that his recovery is a lengthier process than he wishes it to be. Concern, Kendall Gibbons. Her lifelong friend Lynn, whose husband Ben died suddenly in October. This is a difficult transition and a time of much sadness for all those who loved him. Joy, Angie Jennings. My parents will finally move into a temporary assisted living while my siblings and I find a place for them here in Kansas City so that I can be there on a day-to-day basis. Richard Thompson, joy. I'm going to the Chiefs playoff game today. Concern, my sister has COVID. Scott England, concern. Have moved Dad into memory care and cleared out his apartment, but still dealing with him getting used to new environment. Joy, going back up to Omaha tomorrow to get to visit Dad again for the first time since December 30th after COVID exposure and cases at his new home. Cheryl Westra, saddened by the death of a high school classmate who caught COVID while attending his younger brother's funeral. Evelyn Maddox, it's a joy to see Susan Sarachek progress in recovery at home after her surgery in November. Margaret Drinkwine, joyously looking forward to gathering with my children for my upcoming birthday as I enter a decade few of my ancestors reached. We have not been together at the same time in over 2 years. Carol Hunt, joy. We went to the musical Wicked last night. Great music, but also surprisingly relevant commentary on current social political conditions. Chuck Downing, very grateful for the good health Carol and I have enjoyed these past 2 years. Jan Cohen, bittersweet trip to Mexico. First in years without Ralph, now just good memories. Roma Lee Taunton, my joy is that we are still connected as a community. Sue Trowbridge, we are taking deep breaths as we see the bully political movement. Marion Hewitt Darasset, a joy. Our grandson Philip Anthony Lupo turns 1 year old on February 6th. Russell Feldhausen, joy. Celebrating 5 years of marriage with my wife, Miriam. Connie Brown, concern for my next door neighbor's son who is in the hospital with COVID on ECMO for a month now.
Will you join me in the words of our congregational response? We need one another when we mourn and would be comforted. We need one another when we are in trouble and afraid. We need one another when we are in despair, in temptation, and need to be recalled to our best selves again. We need one another when we would accomplish some great purpose and cannot do it alone. We need one another in the hour of success, when we look for someone to share our triumphs. We need one another in the hour of defeat, when with encouragement we might endure and stand again. We need one another when we come to die and would have gentle hands to prepare us for that journey. All our lives we are in need, and others are in need of us. Although we hope that the current spike of coronavirus Omicron variant will begin to decline very soon so that we can return to gathering in person, it may still be some while before we can safely sing together as a whole community. But there is more than one way to join as an assembly in words and music. Over the next few weeks, American Sign Language speaker Lanisa Robinson will be teaching us all a simplified signing version of our familiar UU song, Spirit of Life. This morning, we invite you simply to watch her during the offertory as she expresses the meaning of these words in authentic ASL as a proficient speaker would understand it. Next week, she will show us a modified interpretation suitable for participation by those who are new to signing, which we hope will become part of our congregation's shared liturgical vocabulary far beyond the time of COVID. Now, Melanie Yackel has a special invitation for today's offering.
Good morning. My name is Melanie Yackel, and I'm a member of this congregation. I am also employed by our church as the assistant to the Religious Education Director, Judith Cady. Today, it is my honor to introduce the offering. Reverend Judith Cady has been the Religious Education Director for 17 years. She will be retiring at the end of February. Our church has a tradition of bidding farewell to retiring staff with a monetary gift from the members of the congregation. The offering this morning goes directly toward our gift to Judith. I have had the privilege of working closely with Judith for about the past 10 years, but you don't have to be around that long to see all the loving ways she cares for and admires every child in our program. She truly sees the light in each and every one of them. Over the years, there have been families in our congregation in need of clothing and sometimes a bit of money to cover the month's rent or for food. Judith has made sure these needs were met, frequently out of her own pocket. She has reliably shared in our joys, and she has ministered to us in our times of grief. Judith has a talent for bringing people together, whether it be for the Academy of the Sacred Flame, our Whole Lives programming, or even to teach Sunday school. She shines at building a team of volunteers, knowing how to find those who will have the best interest of every child and teen. Judith has been such an asset to our congregation. Her calming, loving presence is something I will incredibly miss. I encourage you all to give generously and join me in saying thank you to Judith for all of her hard work here at All Souls, for supporting our youth, for her constant positivity, and for her encouragement in our children's spiritual growth. The offering will now be given and gratefully received. Thank you.
Let's say together the words of dedication for our offering. We dedicate our offerings and our actions to the mission at the heart of this congregation, to build a respectful, caring community, to inspire personal and spiritual growth, and to create change toward a just and compassionate society. Let us join together now in a few moments of reflective meditation. As Unitarian Universalists, we believe that each individual is free to discover what is finally good and right and true. That freedom carries with it the responsibility for each of us honestly and vigorously to seek out life's deeper meanings, and that our quest is neither trivial nor inconsequential, but of primary concern if we are to live well and fully. Therefore, let us reflect on the ways in which each of us feels called upon to change and grow. And let us resolve that in the days and weeks to come, we may live closer to that ideal. Knowing that we do not always live up to our best expectations of ourselves, let us in quietness seek the good within, which some have called the inner light or a spark of the divine. Knowing that we live in a society that falls far short of the ideal, let us, in quietness, resolve to do one thing this week to aid those suffering from want and injustice. Knowing that the earth is our home and that humankind is making it a dirty and even poisonous place, let us in quietness consider how we might be part of making it a more healthful home for all living things. Knowing that each of us has some sorrow or worry hidden within, let us consider in quietness how we may reach out to one another with our smiles, our kindness, and our encouraging words. And knowing that our personal intentions grow in strength when they are shared, let us lift our voices together in song.
This old world is full of sorrow, full of sickness, weak and sore. If you love your neighbor truly, love will come to you the more. We're all children of one family, we're all kinfolk, this we know. If we cherish one another, healing in our This old world can be a garden full of fragrance, full of grace, if our spirits can discover beauty in each human face. We are taught to love thy neighbor as the best and highest prayer. Share the burdens and the journey, all our joys and sorrows share.
My friends, let us be kind to one another, for everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle you know nothing about, carrying an unseen wound and a hidden burden. Be kind always.
Come share this day with me. Come share this day with me. Come share this day with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you home when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time.
We release this flame, sending the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of commitment out into the world. And these we also carry in our minds and hearts until the time shall come when we will be together again. Thank you for being with us this morning to celebrate community through the sharing of our joys and concerns. You are now warmly invited for a few moments of informal conversation and fellowship in our Community Connections Zoom room. The link can be found in the chat here or on our All Souls website homepage. Please watch the weekly Flickr email, our website, and Facebook page for the latest information about returning to in-person Sunday services. We hope that you will join us again next week online when we will reflect on the season of new light and new life, with winter officially half over, and prepare for the changes ahead with the celebration of Imbolc. In the meantime, everyone, please order your masks and your tests. Take care, stay safe, and be well this week.